This episode brought to you by MeepleRealty.com, your source for high-quality custom board game inserts. Meeple Realty, think inside the box. Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're bringing you a Kickstarter update, and you're saying to yourself, probably if you've been following my previous Kickstarter updates, oh, well that must mean that one of the games came in, or at least there's a lot of news and some really big news on one of the 3 games you've kickstarted, because Baker, you said you'd never kickstart more than 3 games at a time. And since Gloomhaven, Kingdom Death Monster, and Founders of Gloomhaven haven't actually come out yet, surely you haven't kickstarted more games. Well, I've fallen off the wagon, I'm afraid, and I may be falling into that Kickstarter trap. So let's just go over the news real quick as far as what's going on. So Gloomhaven is there's 2 games that are going to show up probably roughly around the same time. Gloomhaven from Isaac Childress over at Cephalofair Games is currently shipping. I believe the last update mentioned that it was on the way to Europe, which also covers the rest of the world. Other than North America and all that stuff. So Europe is en route right now, and then the rest of the games will be shipping out as well. So when I say shipping, it's shipping to the warehouses, not from the warehouses to the other people. So Gloomhaven is definitely getting very close. I'm thinking maybe in the next 2 months, month to 2 months. I'm hoping a month, but month to 2 months is when I should see that game show up. For those of you not familiar with Gloomhaven, it is a massive, 90 plus hour campaign in this massive box that should dwarf even the Mechs versus Minions box, if I remember correctly. And you start off with a few heroes, and the game's all based around the city of Gloomhaven, and you spread out from there to do quests. And as you do quests, it unlocks more quests on this map. And certain quests will create story events that actually come back later in future, or might come back later, not necessarily, and you'll see the results or the consequences of a previous decision or previous quest come back and revisit you later. Meanwhile, your heroes are, as they're leveling up, they eventually might reach their retirement goal, and then that hero retires to never be used again, and new heroes get unlocked. It sounds fantastic. It's gotten great reviews. I believe it's currently number 4 on Board Game Geek, number 4 game of all time on Board Game Geek. So that's pretty fantastic. Very, very, very excited for Gloomhaven, and hopefully I'll be playing it here very soon. And in a future Kickstarter update, you'll see that I've finally gotten that one in. Meanwhile, another massive game that's going to show up about the same time as Gloomhaven, so I'm really, honestly, a little bit worried about that, because I would love to play both of these campaigns, a lot of it on the channel. I'd like to start focusing on some campaign play on the channel, but I probably have to pick one or the other. We'll see. This one is Kingdom Death Monster. Now, this one, last I checked, was arriving at warehouse. Now, Adam Poots, the designer, has not put any updates out recently. The last update was about a month ago. However, not official updates through email. However, apparently there has been a lot of talk over on the Kickstarter page, in the comments and stuff like that. And fortunately on Board Game Geek, some people have been copying those comments and posting them in the forums on Board Game Geek. And what it looks like right now is that 2 out of 3 shipments have arrived at American warehouses, but Adam's waiting for the 3rd shipment to show up before he starts sending them out. And I believe the other shipments, maybe worldwide, have also arrived at their warehouses, but he wants to try to make it a worldwide release, is how I understood the updates. Either way, I do know that 2 out of 3 shipments have shown up at the American warehouses, and so when that 3rd shipment shows up, they should start sending those out. And so I got to think that means that within a month or so, we'll have Kingdom Death Monster here as well. And this one is this, basically imagine if, you woke up in this world, nothing but darkness everywhere, just darkness. And you are a human, but you're so it's so early in our evolution that you can't even speak. You have no speech. You just see the other humans and you kind of know that you're all together, but there's this lion-ish thing that's just attacking. And so you have to fight off this lion. Once you do, you then find a settlement of other humans similar to you. Again, no speech, just kind of existing. And you start developing your settlement in between these encounters with these horrific creatures and monsters and bosses and stuff like that. And the fight system is very interesting. It's got this deck of cards that is unlike anything I've seen before, where as you wound the enemies, the deck of cards gets whittled down. But that deck of cards is the behaviors of the enemy that you're fighting. So as you wound it, it becomes less and less effective with what it can do. It's just so cool. And then as you're fighting it, you also are able to, or either during the fight or also after the fight, you harvest, bits and pieces off of this monster, and so then you can make weapons from its bones or make other, armor from its hide and all this stuff. And the tech tree in this game is very, very cool, very interesting. It's just so visceral and disturbing in some ways. And as far as horror games go, this is the one that to me seems the most horrific that I've seen, as far as just looking at what these monsters are and what they could do. Your heroes, you don't get attached to your heroes in this game, because in fact they're just regular people. It's more about making the civilization survive, because almost certainly, routinely, the characters are going to get killed in the encounters. And not just killed, but killed in horrific ways, because you can get these terrible wounds. A guy can go blind. A guy can have his back broken. He can be disemboweled. It's all based on, the roll of your dice, what sort of armor you've got, all that kind of stuff. I go on and on. I'm very, very excited, obviously, for this one as well. Kingdom Death Monster. Clearly, I'm excited for all these, because I wouldn't be backing them on Kickstarter if I wasn't. Okay, and then we've got Founders of Gloomhaven was the third one that I've currently backed. And the latest update there is that it is assembling. Everything is going as planned for the most part. And actually, with that and Gloomhaven, we should get an update today. Normally, Isaac Childress sends out updates on Fridays. So I'm expecting to get an update today, hopefully, as long as he hasn't gotten too busy with all the stuff he's got going on. So Founders of Gloomhaven, obviously set in the same Gloomhaven universe, completely different than Gloomhaven, though. It is a Euro game. It is at the beginning of the founding of Gloomhaven, as you might have guessed from the title, and you are one of the, I can't remember how many races are in the game now. I want to say it's a dozen or so. You're one of those races, and you are playing against up to 3 other people, I believe, and building the city, trying to have the most influence over the construction of the city. I'm still not 100% clear on a lot of the mechanisms of the game, but essentially one of the primary and really the driving mechanism is that as you build different sections, you will be controlling different resources, and there's a bunch of different resources in the game. And if you're controlling a resource that someone else needs for whatever they're trying to do, then you actually, by them using that resource, you get points as well. Not as many points as they do for what they're doing, but it helps, their success helps bring you up as well some. That's a pretty cool idea. I like that a lot. The how, where in the city you're building affects different costs and stuff like that as well. And it seems just like such a cool idea, and so many different races, and they're asymmetric. They all have different abilities. And then there's also he just recently added in some sort of mechanism to really kind of incentivize different aspects of the game that people weren't really taking advantage of before. So I think it's pretty cool to watch kind of that development process as, Isaac realized, okay, this part of the game that I really want people to take advantage of, but apparently there's not enough incentive there, or at least not enough apparent incentive. So I'm going to add this little mechanism here. And now, oh look, it looks like people are actually doing that part of the game now, or really taking advantage of that. That's pretty cool to see that in process and see that development, and to have him share that with us as well. So that's founders of Gloomhaven. Okay, so let's get to what's happening as to why I'm now backing more games than I said I would. Seventh Continent is up on Kickstarter right now. It is, I think, raised over like almost $2.5 million at this point. Seventh Continent is this game. Imagine a choose your own adventure book from when you were a kid, except for this game is massive. Again, you're looking at around 40-50 hours of gameplay from what I've heard just in the base box. There's a bunch of expansions as well. You are explorers who have been cursed, and you've got to go to the seventh continent to try to lift this curse. And when you show up, the tiles are all square tiles, and you have things on that tile you can explore, plus you can explore obviously off the tile. And it tells you, okay, grab card, or they call them cards, but essentially tiles. Grab card, 006 and put it here, and you read the back of that card, and it might have something that's happening, and you flip it over, and then something happens. The thing is, the board is not modular in the sense that it's random. The continent is set, so everybody's continent, from what I understand, looks exactly the same. But the events that occur are different based on what's going on, which curse you're playing, what you decide to do, and what decisions you make. And the continent itself apparently is just enormous, just huge. Like if you were to actually explore the entire continent all at once, it wouldn't fit on the 2 tables I have in here. And as you go through it, so obviously when you're playing something that big, you can't keep that out, right? So there's a save game feature that apparently takes 5 minutes to save at most. You put it back in the box, and then 5 minutes to set back up. And you're not setting up the entire continent every time. You're setting up the area you were in most recently, from what I understand. So if you want to see a really good gameplay of this, go over to One Stop Co-op Shop. He has a gameplay going where he's kind of putting out what's happening every now and then. I believe he has 4 or 5 gameplays so far. You have lots of different characters you can choose from, and then just the decisions you make and the story seems very, very cool. And the amount of gameplay and replayability in the game is amazing. And so my only concern now is, do I have enough money to keep this pledge and the next one I'm about to tell you about? Or do I even have enough money to upgrade my pledge to get some of the expansions? Because the thing with Seventh Continent is that it will not be in retail. They're not going to put it in retail. Just the sheer amount of stuff that comes in this game, and the way the game was made, and the cost is prohibitive of them going with the regular retail model. The only way you're getting it is through Kickstarter, and granted, this could be some marketing mumbo jumbo here, but they're saying that they're not going to do another Kickstarter. This is the last Kickstarter. This is your last chance to get your hands on Seventh Continent. So with that in mind, do I want to spend the extra $50 to get the new expansions and all the exclusives, or not exclusive, but all the stretch goals currently with the current Kickstarter? I don't know. That's a decision I have to make, because the next game also looks absolutely fantastic. Time of Legends, Joan of Arc, coming from Mythic Games. This one is going to start on Kickstarter, I believe, this Tuesday, October 10th. It is primarily a one-on-one game, which is fantastic for me because my wife is my primary gaming partner. And with this one, it's set during the 100 Years' War, and there are some historic-based battles in there where it is no magic, no legendary stuff, nothing like that. It is just, the French versus the English, and, you fight. There's also a skirmish mode, apparently, where you can build your own armies based on a point system, and you fight. However, the really cool aspect of this is that they also have a number of scenarios in there, and I believe there might be more of these than the historic ones, where they take these legends that have been documented. For instance, here's a great example. This is the example that they talk about the most, where some villagers were concerned that somebody in their village was a werewolf, and so a knight and a group of soldiers came into the village to hunt down the werewolf. They actually found a guy, and they strung him up and hung him because they thought he was a werewolf. a little bit grisly there. But so in this particular scenario, one player is the werewolf who's hiding amongst the villagers, and one player is the knight and the soldiers coming in, and a priest to find the werewolf. And in this case, somebody really is a werewolf, so that's okay. But that's an example of how this was apparently a very well documented incident that occurred back during the 100 Years' War time frame. And so you have a bunch of different things like that are going to be going on, a bunch of scenarios like that. And there is this dragon that is the biggest, most amazing miniature I've ever seen. It's not really even a miniature. I mean, I guess it is compared to a real dragon, but it is huge. It is absolutely huge. And that by itself makes me want to get the game. Now, the dragon is an add-on, so that therein lies where I have to decide if I can back 7th Continent and Time of Legends at the same time. Now, Time of Legends will be available at retail, so maybe I get 7th Continent because it's not available at retail, and then pay because Time of Legends is going to be much more expensive at retail. You got to imagine, because currently it comes with 250 miniatures in the base box, and then obviously the add-ons, the dragon. There's a castle add-on. So much stuff. So many cool ideas with this game. The castle apparently adds a whole new way to play, a siege mode, which sounds really neat as well. So, Time of Legends, Joan of Arc. Again, I'm expecting this pledge to be a fairly large pledge, so I got to figure out if that one's going to be worth it. And finally, don't know a whole lot about this last game, which I have not backed, and by the time it comes up on Kickstarter, hopefully founders of Gloomhaven and the base game of Kingdom Death Monster all will be in, so I won't feel so bad backing this one. Iridia, The Paths We Dare Tread is going to be the next game from Cody Miller. Cody Miller's the guy that created Xayah, or Xayah Legends of the Drift system, as well as obviously the expansion for Xayah, and Tavarua was the other one, the surfing game. That's a pretty cool one that if you haven't checked that out, you should. Iridia, The Paths We Dare Tread is a fantasy game. He describes it as a green legacy game, meaning that it can be reset, but that the decisions you make, if you don't reset it, really have rippling effects throughout the campaign, and that is this massive, sprawling campaign. And that's pretty much all he's told us about it, except that the artwork is being done by Mr. Cuddington, who is a art design team, actually, and they do fantastic work. Look them up if you haven't seen their previous work. And knowing the epic scope that Cody's capable of creating with games like Xayah really makes me excited for what he's doing with Iridia. Apparently, he's been working on Iridia for years, and now it's finally going to come to fruition. It's slated for early 2018 on Kickstarter. Don't have an exact date yet, but that one really is on my radar as well. And up until I saw 7th Continent and Joan of Arc, Iridia was going to be my next game that I backed. And now I still plan on backing it regardless of what's going on with my 3 games thing. I mean, that's pretty much out the window at this point. So if any of these games sound cool to you, I will have links in the description below to their Kickstarter pages, even the ones that have already ended. And also go over and check them out on Board Game Geek. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.